Hello, all. Thank you for joining us to hear about our Strange Lake processing plant proposal. I am the Secretary of Trade for Canada, Bailey Ridealch, and let's begin. A little introduction for this proposal. Canada wants to expand its REE supply, which is rare earth elements, because of a global movement to receive non-Chinese sources of these elements. Currently, China supplies 70% of the world's sources, and because of other countries' disinterest in the Chinese supplies, Canada is hoping to increase its market share. So, a little background about Canada. There's an estimated 15.2 million tons of the rare earth elements, and there are a significant amount of these resources in the Strange Lake area, which we are hoping to set up a processing plant. We want to establish this plant to crush, separate, and process these elements. And we're going to show an image of where this mine will be. So this map shows all the proposed mines and processing plants in Canada. And in the northern eastern side, you can see the Strange Lake mine. And you can also see that there aren't many processing plants in or anywhere near this area. They're more on the eastern and southern areas. So that is why we're interested in putting a REE processing plant in this area. So let's go over some things about Canada. So a little cultural analysis is Canada is one of the friendliest countries in the world. This means that its citizens are very comfortable embracing new products, ideas, and businesses, which means there is a large support by the citizens for foreign direct investment, which is very good. There's also many different languages spoken in Canada. The main languages are English and French, and in the Strange Lake area where the plant will be, they mostly speak French. And there are also many native communities in that area, in those remote regions, and they speak their native tongue as well. And another strength about Canada is that they have a good mining education and they emphasize and endorse mining. And so this means there's a large part of the population who's interested in this kind of an industry. So now let's go over some economic factors. So Canada has a population of 41.3 million. Its GDP is 2.39 trillion, and it has an unemployment rate of 6.9%. So this is for all of Canada, and in the Quebec region, which is where Strange Lake is, there are 9.1 million residents, and there is an unemployment rate of 6%. Also, out of total GDP in the mining industry results in about 8.2% of the country's GDP, so it's a good amount. And to move on to the second point, Canada has many different trade agreements like the WTO, OECD, CUSMA, CETA, CKFTA, and there's also many more trade agreements. This means that exporting from Canada will be relatively easier compared to other countries, and Canada is also in a trade deficit, so it is very eager to bring on a country looking to increase its exports. So let's go over the economic analysis a little bit more. Labor may be difficult to find because there's been a pattern in Canada where qualified and specialized individuals in fields will move outside of the country. And running a processing plant requires lots of knowledge and lots of skill and experience. So finding people in Canada to run a plant and manage it may be difficult. A strength about Canada, though, is its marketing structure. There's well-developed infrastructures throughout the country, but a little less in remote regions like Strange Lake. Another advantage of producing in Canada is its proximity to the U.S. The U.S. is looking for new rare earth element sources, so being close to the U.S. will be good and it can help export there. Another strength about Canada's marketing structure is its media availability. And so now let's go over the market audit and competitive market analysis. So REs are typically used in consumer electronics, green energy facilities, electronic vehicles, and many military technologies. So it's mostly governments and large companies that purchase these elements. As you can see in this image, China supplies 70% of the world's supplies of rare earth elements, and Canada is hoping to increase its market share and get closer to this top 5. And currently, there's only one operating rare earth element mine, and there are many more planned. And there's one mine in the Quebec area near Strange Lake, like we've discussed. But there are no plants near this mine, but there are 2 plants currently running in the entire country, and these plants are run by SGS Canada Facilities and Vital Metals. And to continue this, the rare earth element industry, the marketing strategies are different compared to most other industries. They mainly rely on building relationships because it deals mostly with long-term contracts with customers. But a way to stand out is by ethically producing the REEs. People are moving away from China because they want their elements to be ethical, and so Canada is strongly enforcing ethical practices to differentiate itself. And there are also many different competitive barriers. These are capital cost, finding labor, and the amount of buyers in the industry. But luckily, the government is providing funding to help with the capital costs, and many buyers are looking for non-Chinese sources. Sorry, now let's discuss the project outline. So the processing plant will be in the Strange Lake area, and the plant must be able to crush, separate, and chemically process the elements. The elements that we're searching for are neodymium, praseodymium, cerium, and lanthanum, and the facility will also need waste procedures. These procedures are handle tailing, wastewater, and naturally occurring radioactive material waste. These will help ethically source these REs. And now let's go over price, product, and distribution. So the product is these elements that we just discussed, and the price is mainly going to be determined by the industry, but we'll also offer discounts to buyers. And distribution will mostly be determined by long-term contracts to go over demand, and it will rely on intermodal transportation because the Strange Lake area is remote and may need train or truck to get to transport these materials. Okay, let's go over how this project aligns with new opportunities in Canada and in the world. So it aligns with Canada's strength of vast resources of these elements, and because there's lots of elements and not many processing plants, it's a strength to set up a processing plant. Another strength is Canada's willingness to set up a processing plant, and they're able to help establish funds. The project also aligns with global opportunities because demand is steadily growing for these REs, and many countries are looking for non-Chinese sources. So now let's go over why REs, why a processing plant, and why in this area. So new companies are requiring these rare elements, so demand is growing. Another reason is for the plant in this area is because there's no mines there's no processing plants close to these mines. So now let's go over some project assumptions. We're assuming that your company receives Indigenous approval this is vital because without it, they could shut down the project after it's begun. But to receive this approval, a company just needs to build a relationship with these people and follow their wishes. So basically just being kind. Another assumption is that you will receive enough funding to cover some of the capital costs because the government won't provide enough to cover all the costs, but hopefully it's enough to get you started. Okay, now let's go over some project constraints. So it's estimated that'll be $500 million to set up the facility, which is a lot, but we're hoping with the funding it will be doable. Another constraint is the long permitting time. Canada is known for long permitting time. And we've also discussed labor before, but it is a big constraint to be able to find the labor necessary. Now let's go over project implications. So this project will integrate Canada's supply chain, provide security, and shorten lead times. And this project helps Canada gain more control of its supply chain and doesn't have to rely on things being transferred a long distance, so it helps shorten the time, provide security. So now let's go over some future actions. After the project's been running successfully, we hope to increase capacity and build partnerships. This building partnerships will help us build the demand to help increase capacity. And so I've learned some valuable lessons over the course of this project. I've learned how to analyze demand trends and how to remain unbiased when making decisions. These are very valuable lessons, and I'm very glad they will be able to help me in the future. I also learned how FDI affects the 4Ps of marketing. A company can use the new materials for the products at a lower cost, and price can be lower because you can avoid tariffs and other barriers. Distribution in place is also impacted by FDI because distribution can become easier and it can enhance the brand image by having a physical location. Promotion also improves with FDI because the company learns more about the country's culture. And so, in conclusion, this project will enhance Canada's rare earth element supply by establishing an rare earth element processing plant. This project utilizes different strengths of the country, like its many resources and government support. And I want to say thank you all for joining this proposal today, and have a good day.